Hi, welcome to Faux Food Creations. I'm Emily and today I'm going to show you how to make 5 different kinds of fake donuts. We have a custard filled Long John, a chocolate filled sugar donut, a classic pink iced donut, as well as some mini powdered sugar and chocolate donuts. You'll start by molding the donuts out of Model Magic. For the round filled donut, you'll start by rolling out a fist-sized ball, and you'll start gently patting it down until you get it into kind of a thick disc shape. You can then give it a little roll and smooth out the sides a bit. And then once you're happy with the shape, you can get something to poke a hole. I'm using a paintbrush here, and then you'll just poke it in and kind of swirl it around a little bit until you get the hole of your desired shape. And then you'll set that aside to dry. For the regular donut with the hole in the middle, you'll start out the same way that you did with the filled donut by making a ball and then patting it down into a disc. And then to cut the donut hole, I'm using an icing tip, but you can use anything with a sharp round edge. And then you'll just sit it in the center and push it down. And Model Magic is a little bit sticky, so it'll be a little bit hard to get out, but that's okay. You can always go in with your fingers and fix it a little bit after. Here you can see I'm just smoothing out the hole and making it look a little bit more neat. And then when you're happy with the shape, just set it aside to dry. For the mini donuts, you'll want to keep them a little bit more round instead of a disc shape, kind of like a very thick burger patty. And then you can just stick your pinky in the middle and kind of swirl it around, and that'll create a hole for you. Any roughness that's left after you push the hole through, you can just smooth out with your fingers. You can repeat that process on the next donut and then just sit those aside to dry as well. For the Long John, start out with a ball and then kind of press it down and then stretch out the sides until you have kind of an oblong shape. You can roll it a bit to smooth out the sides and then press down the top so that you have a flatter surface. And then just continue molding it until you're happy with the shape. I like to take the crook of my hand and place it along the edges so that you get a more rounded shape. And then finally set that aside to dry. For the base coat of all the donuts except the mini chocolate donut, you'll mix together a matte Mod Podge with a cream colored paint. I'm using this one that's called Vanilla Ice Cream. And to avoid very obvious brush strokes, I kind of stippled it on to give it a more realistic texture. For the chocolate donut, I used the same technique, I just used brown paint instead of cream. And then to add color from the frying of the donuts, I'm mixing up a very light yellowy tan color. The goal is to make this color the color of a perfectly golden brown donut. Once you have that color created, you're going to go around the perimeter and create 2 lines and leave a little bit of a gap between those lines. That way it shows there's a part that wasn't completely fried. Like if you have the donut in the fryer, one side's gonna get fried and then you're gonna flip it over, but then there's always gonna be a ring around it that's not quite as fried as the outside. You don't want these lines to be super crisp, so I actually watered down the paint a little bit. That way they're a little bit more subtle. The goal is just to not make them too harsh. And then you can go in with more watered down paint and just coat the sides. And you'll repeat this for the filled donuts as well as the regular donut, but not for the mini donuts. Now to decorate the donuts, we're going to start out with the pink iced donut. To make the icing, you'll start with some white caulking, and then you'll add in a little bit of glossy Mod Podge. And then finally, you'll mix in some acrylic paint to get to your desired pink color. I'm starting with this color pink. Then I added in a bit of red to give it a little bit more of a strong color. Then I felt it was a little bit warm, so I added in a little drop of blue. I started out trying to dip the donut into the icing, but that didn't really work out too well, so I just used a popsicle stick to ice it on. While the icing was still tacky, I sprinkled on some sprinkles. I have a separate tutorial about how to make the sprinkles, so check that out if you're interested. I'm a little bit particular about the placement of the sprinkles, so I added some with my fingers as well, and that's it. For the sugar-coated donut, you can use white decorative sand. You'll just want to pour it into some sort of container that you can easily dip the donut into. And then start by coating one side of the donut in a matte Mod Podge. And once you have a pretty generous coat on there, you can dunk that into the sand and kind of give it a wiggle and make sure you get all the sides covered. Let that dry and then repeat on the other side, but do remember to keep the center part that's lighter bare. For the chocolate filling, mix together a clear caulking with some dark brown paint. It's very important that you use a clear caulking because, as you can see on the left, if you use a white caulking, it'll be a lot lighter. Next, take a pretty good size amount and put that into the hole that you created earlier. And there you have your finished chocolate filled donut. You can use the same caulking and dark brown paint mixture on the Long John as well for the icing. Just use a popsicle stick to spread a generous layer over the top. For the cream filling, you can use a white caulking or clear caulking, it doesn't matter for this one, but then you'll just want to mix in some cream paint, and I also added a little bit of yellow just to make it a little bit more custardy. And then just grab some of that with a paintbrush or a popsicle stick and dollop it right into the hole. For the mini chocolate ice donut, I did a base layer of the burnt umber paint, and then I went in with that same chocolate mixture that we have of the clear caulking and the burnt umber paint, and then just covered it completely. I used a hairdryer to smooth out the icing because I didn't want it to look like it had been iced on, but rather like kind of poured over. So I didn't want any like spread strokes to be left on the donut at the end, so that's why I did that. I continued building up the layers because I wanted it to be very smooth, so I think I did 2 or 3 layers in total. And finally, for the powdered sugar donut, start by mixing together equal parts baby powder and cornstarch. I did try just using baby powder, but it ended up looking like this, so I would recommend mixing the two together. I also would recommend adding the Mod Podge in small sections instead of coating the entire thing like I'm doing here. I would recommend doing a small section, then dipping it into the mixture, and then doing another section. I did not do that, but I think it would make it a lot easier. So you'll just want to roll the donut around and pat it into the mixture. You can also sprinkle some over the top if you feel like you've missed any sections, and then pat in anything if you feel like it needs any adjustments.